Hello and welcome to episode 178 of the Veeam Community Recap. But we have taken over with some special guests, and you may even see a special topic that we're going to talk about here. I'm joined by the two co-conspirators of the Veeam Hackathon, Jonah May and Maurice Kievanar. How you doing today, Jonah?
I'm doing pretty well, and I guess you can say that we're hacking the recap today.
Hack the recap. That's what's on my calendar is hack the recap. Indeed, indeed. Maddie's doing some well-deserved vacation in Indonesia, and I'm joined by the other conspirator, Maurice. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. How are you
Awesome.
today?
I'm good. I'm traveling as well. I'm in the U.S. state of Minnesota. Speaking of hackathon, speaking of all of that, I was at Black Hat in Las Vegas, and then I had a Veeam event in Minnesota. Here I am. Here I go home tonight. Crazy, crazy stuff. But really grateful that these two stepped up. And we're going to talk special content as we do, but we're also going to talk hackathon and more. So I'm really excited about that. But Jonah's got the shirt. I have the shirt. I
Yeah.
should have wore it. I didn't. Well, I don't have it on this trip, but I should have worn the shirt. It's really that really nice light cotton stuff. So good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Maurice and Jonah,
Like
you ready to? Oh yeah.
one
What's
shirt
automation desk? Yeah,
with
that's
your
a good
logo.
shirt. Yeah. Okay. So only the Veeam guy doesn't have Veeam swag on today. So some
You're also the
evangelist
only guy
Rickatron.
traveling, so I think
Well,
you get
I
a little.
I have two shirts. One's already dirty because I wore it. I have a backup polo. I should have probably wore that one. Maybe another day. All right. Well, let's jump into it. We got a lot of content, believe it or not. But we're not breaking any said rules. So that being said, let's start with Veeam Decoy's project. And this officially was a pick of Maurice's, but you both have some points of view here. Tell me about this.
Yeah, for starters, I think nowadays hackers, not to compare that with a hackathon, but hackers are trying to get into systems all over the place, and it's a really good thing to be able to have a decoy or honeypot or whatever you want to call it, where you try to lure the hacker to. Instead of your actual backup infrastructure in this case. So I think it's a really good idea to have some sort of way to deviate the traffic to a fake service. So I really think this is something that can really benefit on for every company or every user that uses the backup and replication or the Veeam services to get the thing away from your actual data.
Yeah, and they're citing some of the Coveware reports, which, by the way, last week the quarterly report came out, and some specific threat actor type of behavior intel was shared, as well as some of their previous. This is from this year about their different behaviors, exfil, lateral movement impact, command and control. All this stuff comes out of the Coveware data pipeline. And Jonah, you had a few thoughts about this project as well.
Yeah, I really like the concept. I'll actually be installing it into my home lab later today and playing around with it because my company recently started as part of our solutions, not just selling Veeam Cloud Connect services, but also selling on-premises backup appliances that we help manage and provide warranties on. So this might be something we could potentially look at to help customers add into their ecosystems to help hide that appliance. But I don't know. I have a bit of a love-hate with the thought of us talking about it here on the recap because on one hand I want to give it visibility, but on the other I'm worried the more visibility it gets, it's almost going to start an arms race of maybe now the
Mhm.
hackers will find it and start figuring out how to figure out if it's this honeypot or a legitimate server, and it's I'm almost worried it's going to start some back and forth the more it gets talked about.
Yeah, true. But then again, it's open source on GitHub. So if they are able to find it one way or the other, it has visibility on the internet. So you can never do it perfectly. You can never have it as a perfect decoy unless you develop something in house for this and have it completely private.
That's true. And even then, this shouldn't be your only solution, right? I mean, I was on a webinar yesterday with a Veeam SE and Wasabi, and we were talking about security through layers, leveraging multiple types of multi-factor authentication, not just on Veeam, but on your operating system, on your Wasabi data, if you're utilizing them, using the inline malware scanning as not as an end-all be-all solution, but combining it all to really meet the MITRE framework. And I think this helps with that. And I'll be curious to see how this evolves. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a VB365 version next, because that would be kind of cool.
Or who's to say you won't take this repo and fork it to your own, extra value add and extra things you're looking for too. So think of it that way.
And speaking of, if you have an idea on how to improve and implement this, the hackathon is a good way to look at it.
Or even just a demo of this and then how you have enhanced it. That would be a good hackathon project. Yeah. Good stuff. Awesome. Thank you, Marco. Forgot to say that. Thank you, Marco Escobar. Welcome on. He's not new here, but he's new here. He's just not new here. Yeah, that guy's good. Welcome, Marco. Might be the first time I've called you here. All right. Next up, David Tosoff, one of the good ones from Canada. One of our architects has rocked out a post. We featured Calculator Commons as a new thematic group. And this one was a pick of Jonah's, this type of stuff. Calculators matter. It really helps in sizing. What kind of caught your eye on this post, Jonah?
Well, I'm always looking for quality of life improvements to these calculators. I mean, I've been using them back since the Tim DeWin days when it was rps.dewin.net or whatever the domain was. And, wearing multiple hats at my company, overseeing sales engineering, but also product engineering. I'm on a lot of sales calls, and these calculators, as they've evolved, have been immensely useful for us coming up with accurate quotes for our customers. And mobile support, I'm very happy to see, because sometimes my schedule gets a little crazy and sometimes I have to go run an errand and I take a sales call in the car or on the go. And I don't know how many times I've had to kind of fumble through the calculator on my phone. And it, until now, has not really been the most mobile friendly, as David calls out in this post adding the support. So it's really nice to see that.
It's funny, you mentioned the Timothy DeWin. Before that, believe it or not, there was this is the stuff I can tell you. Haven't been here so long, but before that, there was this thing called guesstimator.xls or something like that. It was an Excel guesstimator, lack of a better word. So, formulas and stuff, but great to see it just innovating on and on and on. Good stuff. Any comments on your side for this, Maurice?
Well, knowledge is always key. So if you have a guesstimate or even a close guesstimate on how much data, how much storage, how much stuff you're gonna need down the road, it helps. Everybody helps. Every bit of information helps, and to get you to the point that you can have a good estimation on what you need and what you need to continue on. So I think it's really great that these calculators are there.
One thought is also, for those of you who aren't in the middle of deploying something new, maybe go plug in some of these numbers to the calculators to your environment and see if it's matching, because that might tell you if something isn't functioning as expected. If there's some really big difference here, maybe there's something you need to look into, right? So that's another angle if you're already deployed. Thank you, David. And just a reminder to everyone that Calculator Commons, Maddie and I highlighted this last week, is up and running. So see you there. All right. My pick, OG Joji, with an asterisk that Jonah has something to say about it. And I like what Jonah's got to say. Joe posts a topic about migrating the existing backup platform to a temporary swing space. It's probably in like use cases you're in a refresh, something like that, or migrating to a new Veeam infrastructure. A couple of descriptive points here, but this is the big kind of document he released here, and he was really talking about some of these different elements and things like that. I think this is really helpful, from like what you could use, and a lot of perspective driven by the field. But Jonah, when it comes to moving to a new Veeam infrastructure, part of a refresh, migration, or otherwise, you've got a few points as well.
Right. Yeah, this document, seems to focus mainly on a non-Veeam product to a Veeam product, but it's interesting to see how Veeam has evolved with things like this and made it easier over the years, coming from non-Veeam products to Veeam products, or even going from a Veeam system to a Veeam system. Like, I know some of our partners that have come on and maybe gone from having an MSP that manages their Veeam ecosystem and owns the appliance to managing it themselves. So the MSP in the end ends up taking the Veeam server back and leaving the backups, or it's running on maybe, an older version of Windows Server. So the customer decides they want to start fresh on maybe a 2022 server with a whole new installation. And while they're there, maybe keep those old backups until they age out, but start all new chains and jobs and reconfigure everything to current best practices from scratch. And it's interesting to see how now, originally we got a little bit of functionality there with scale out backup repositories, which is, I think, what this document focuses on.
Mhm.
But now we almost kind of have an evolution where you don't even necessarily need to have that swing space on premises. You could use something like those sobers paired with capacity tier to send your backups off to S3 storage and let them age out. Or you could even potentially use Veeam Mover to shuffle things around locally with that
Mhm.
temporary swing space, where none of that capability was there before. I mean, I remember the days of a service provider of pre S3, pre-hardened Linux repos. Sobers were brand new. Oh no, our repository is filled up. Well, let's robocopy manually, disable the customer's backups, and rehydrate all those REFS blocks.
Oh. Well, that was why the Sober was built for when a repository fills up. The thought was fill it up, spill it to something bigger, but then logic has just kept coming and coming and coming to it. So it's great. I'll admit, I moved when it was 22, right after Veeam On. We did our last Veeam On, at least for my team, in the quote unquote old lab, and now we're in the quote unquote new lab. I took all the image-based backups, NAS shares that I wanted to, bundled them all up, put them into Wasabi, and then pulled them back down into the new lab, which was hilarious because the Wasabi bucket was in Canada from my lab in Ohio, but I literally went from one rack to the next rack. They were totally different networkings and everything. So there's so many ways to do it, but Joe has kind of this kind of architecture in mind view. The one big difference from my little hack trick is that I didn't have to move 7 years of retention over. Okay. So, those types of factors come into play. But thank you, Joe, for sharing that. And thank you, Jonah, for your P to the OV of that. Now, those are our three featured contents, but given who's on the show, given all three of us having these backgrounds, we're going to talk a lot about the hackathon. And Maurice and Jonah, looks like a week or so before the hackathon, are kind of like talking about some tools and how you can use this and participate well. Tell me about this, guys.
Yeah, the three most used tools, Git, GitHub, and Discord, for the hackathon. At least for every team, every team can use another tool as well. But these are basically tools that you actually need during the hackathon. One of the things that we got as a feedback is that people had trouble understanding Git or GitHub and Discord and whatnot. So we thought maybe it's a really good idea to have a webinar in front of the hackathon together with Gary Park, who is an actual GitHub star, which is the MVP or Vanguard Legend program of GitHub, to join us and tell us a bit about Git and GitHub, to get you starting with these actual tools that we are using.
I think that's great because, if you know how to use the tools, but you have an idea, then you can put those two together. And Jonah, looks like you're up for this as well. So really appreciate you both presenting this with Gary. Anything else you want to add, Jonah?
Just if you're familiar with the YouTube shows run by the Green Brothers, Crash Course, it won't be quite as fancy because we won't have, the graphics budget that they have for their videos, but we're kind of considering this like a hackathon crash course for the tools you'll need.
Good. And
even if you're not participating, this could also be a really great opportunity to get some knowledge of these tools.
That's a good point. And I wanted to highlight to that exact point, Maurice, this is officially an Automation Desk product or event, but it can help you in the hackathon, but it can help you just overall in automation and these tools and code management and all of that. So also,
In fact, a lot of the tools from the Veeam Hub
yeah,
are available on GitHub. And if you want to contribute in any way to those tools, you need some knowledge of Git and GitHub. So that can really benefit you as a person, no matter what you want to do it, no matter if you want to join the hackathon or not.
that's a very good point, because the only time I've done GitHub, I know I've done it wrong. So let's just say it that way.
So you will
Good.
join as well?
I'm actually out of the country on that. Wait, I might be out of the country on that day.
I think
can't
we're recording
remember.
it.
Oh, well, yes, of course. I'll watch it, but I don't know if I can join it. But no, good stuff. Thank you, Maurice and Jonah, for that. I'm thanking you while you're on the call. And thank you, Gary, for joining this one as well. Now, that's the week before. Given the backgrounds, given the t-shirt, we're getting close to the hackathon. And this is going to be great. I know we've been promoting it a lot, and we had the live stream, the V100 show recently, showcasing one of the projects. But this is good stuff.
We have one again in September with winning team, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
and 3 days, right? I guess that's 3 days.
Exactly, 3 full days.
Just for the implementation of the project. There's going to be time for team building and brainstorming beforehand, and to finalize your presentations to judges afterwards.
Yeah, and
we open up the communication channels on September 20 already for the teams to break the ice with each other, know what they can do, what everybody can contribute to the project, what is possible, what the idea will be, what they want to build, what they want to create and support, and so on. So they can have meetings. They should have meetings, but yeah, the idea is that they could have meetings, try to communicate with each other, find a common ground on which product they want to build on top on, what they want to build, and how they want to implement it.
And I think you walk through here and you can actually see pretty clearly the different kind of disciplines. As you got to create something, you got to think of the idea, it's time pressured, you got to tell the story about it, you have a goal of what you're going to make. It's a teamwork drill, and at the end it's community focused. So really love that. And actually, I just got to say to both of you, this is super community type stuff. This is not your normal, I'm a fan, I contribute. I mean, we have Vanguards, we have Legends, we have these programs. This is next level. I want to personally thank both of you. This is an incredible amount of work. I know you think about it year round, you're improving the process, you got a lot of feedback, we're highlighting the ideas. It's like the project that never stops. These two put a lot of work into it. It's a really big, heartfelt thank you on behalf of me, Maddie, Nikki, Sophia, everybody. This is super.
I think we started this year around February, beginning of February.
I think we formally started it. I think we already had like 2,000 words worth of feedback in a Word doc by the end of last event.
Yeah.
And I think we had already been discussing things as far back as like a week or two after last year's event.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Formally, we actually started together with Maddie and Sophia, basically starting February. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's this site here which the community hub points you out here. This is a full-blown website in itself, so definitely got the information. I know we've had some sponsor operations, which is always good. Some of our community friends there, that some information about last year. Again, the community, the tools. So
a link to the Discord as well. And if you click on Home Hackathon, or click here to read more.
Yeah.
You will see the full timeline as well.
There it is. Yeah, the September 20th open. Yeah.
This and you can see we've got a newsletter this year too. That way we have ways of reaching everyone in case our lovely friend Discord decides to have an outage an hour before our closing ceremony like last year.
Has that happened before? Yeah.
It happened last year. Yeah, I think an hour or 2 hours before closing of the event, closing of the hackathon, Discord decided to have an outage, and unfortunately we were unable to communicate with the teams.
So definitely everyone, go ahead and sign up for the newsletter, and then also On this page, you can sign up for the event. If I remember correctly, sign up now right here.
It's also
So,
up
Yeah,
in the menu.
and in top in the menu as well.
oh, top of the menu. Oh, of course.
In the
So,
middle.
anyways, thank you, everyone. Thank you who has signed up. And this is cool. This is really, this is funny. I heard this idea and I'm like, wow, it sounds like a lot of work.
It
And
is.
then
Yeah.
it is indeed. And then you too are getting it done. So again, I really can't thank you enough. But everyone, sign up, and then you can also, there's many different ways you contribute, right? So check out these FAQ, right? Because we've had some good different varietal types of engagement, and just start with the
You
sign up.
require to know programming, for example. I think
Yeah,
that's the most common question
yeah,
people we heard is that, do I need to learn how to program something? No,
mhm,
you do not. There are so many disciplines, and it's also an opportunity to step out of your comfort zone
yeah,
and
yeah.
do something that you would never do.
Yeah. The only big requirement really is just be 18 plus. So
Yeah.
yeah, with Jonah just barely qualifies. Sorry,
Yeah.
man. Sorry, I'm bad. Anyways, good stuff, guys. Thank you. Seriously, on behalf of the whole community team, the whole product strategy team, this is a lot of work. I'm very grateful for you too. All right, last thing to share is I just want to highlight, I mean, I do this often, but KB 4514, if you're using Veeam backup and replication offline, off the internet, you can download that suspicious file XML for the inline malware detections file system analysis part. That has been updated to Rev 77. I missed a few. It was moved quickly, but I just want to highlight that it's really kind of interesting. You can just see down at the bottom, there's a few more um, newer threat actors that have been added, at least from their file system behavior. So that is the recap. We're going to skip who's new this week, but I'm convinced it's going to be a whole bunch because Madalena, like all week, has been encouraging people in Indonesia to join the community hub because she was at the Veeam tour there. So I'm really sure we're going to see a big spike down there in Indonesia. So hope Maddie also goes to the other part of Indonesia where she's going to spend some time on a beach. So hope she enjoys that. She needs a break. Um, but
I
hey,
hope she promoted this as well.
oh, she's been promoting this all the time,
Yeah.
both at the event and all the things she's doing. So cannot under promote the hackathon. So big thank you, Jonah, for everything you're doing with that, and also specifically joining me here on the recap today.
Yeah. Well, and I'll give a quick thanks to some help we've got this year from Tom and Yas. They're helping us out with some leadership development materials and some guidebooks and some swag and sponsor lineup as well, because last year was tough and it really showed, Maurice and I cannot do it alone.
Yeah, well, it's tough to build something from scratch. And to your point, you need a team. It takes a village. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Maurice, yeah.
the hours that go into this event and the planning on front of it, I think 120 hours or so each.
Oh, I think that's an understatement,
Yeah.
especially this far in, this only being the second event. We're still coming up with a lot of the policies and procedures and documentation that we can
Exactly.
hopefully reuse for future years, but it's going to take us time, of course, to get there.
Yeah.
Mm.
And, Maurice, thank you so much for all that you've done and are doing and will continue to do. And specifically, thank you for joining me here on the recap today.
Yeah, thank you, Rick, for inviting us.
And I think next week I've got Sophia up because this one we wanted to really do a big push going into some of these hackathon focused events. But I think I got Sophia next week. So we will see what 179 looks like. But anyways, thank you both. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great weekend.